Marketing is a game of attention. If you can't hook your audience to pay attention, they'll miss out on what you have to say or sell. And one of the masters teaching a course about becoming unignorable is Neal O'Grady. He is the co-founder of Demand Curve, and he's gone from a few thousand to 52,000 followers on LinkedIn in just a few months. Today, he shares his 5 C's for creating content that hooks people. In this Marketing Powerups episode, you learn first of all how to tap into people's curiosity. Second, how to build credibility without any followers. Third, how to craft content that is counterintuitive. And number 4, a career power-up that's helped accelerate Neal's career. Before I get started, I created a free Powerups cheat sheet that you can download and apply Neal's 5 C's of unignorable content. You can find it at marketingpowerups.com or in the show notes and description. Are you ready? Let's go.
Marketing Power-Ups. Ready? Go! Here's your host, Rambly John.
You've been teaching this course, and I believe you have this student that applying the principles we're going to be talking about. I'm trying to get people excited. They were able to get 115,000 followers in what, 6 months?
Yeah, he's at 115,000 followers. He did the course in January. He basically didn't post before that. He was lucky in that he was a very early LinkedIn user, like 10, 15 years ago. And just through using that to connect with people, he had an amazing base of 20,000 followers, but he'd never actually posted anything before.
Interesting.
And our course, Un-Ignorable, is cohort based. Combination of just trying to help people refine their topic, as well as learn the psychology of how to post engaging and interesting content that kind of sets you as an expert. Is also one of the biggest reasons why people kind of fail at this is that they are constantly preparing for it and not actually starting, and just having the accountability of I've paid for this, there's other people doing it, I'm getting all these notifications, that you end up doing it, and through it, you're also meeting a whole bunch of other people with the same goal as you. So, he's absolutely crushed it. He was recently, Ali Abdal with 4.5 million subscribers also just made an entire video what it's like to work with him as a CEO coach.
Right. I think I saw that. Yeah. So he's that guy. I just saw that video from Ali Abdal. Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. The Ali basically starts the video saying, "This is Eric, and he is very, very, very expensive."
Which he doesn't usually take clients, right? I think that's what Ali said was I had to almost beg him to take me on or something like that. He has a backlog of clients that he can take on.
Yeah, he's Eric is great in that he has essentially the highest conversion rate we've ever seen of somebody visiting his profile and following him. I've also shown his profile to a bunch of people, and they're immediately "Oh my God, this guy is a baller." And part of that, I brought that up to him, and he's like, "Yeah, but I'm also 47. You're 34. I would rather exchange 13 years of my life and not have the credibility." So for him, he was ranked CEO of the year in 2019. So he just to be a CEO coach and to see somebody that was ranked CEO of the year, it's kind of an obvious. He worked with The Apprentice. He's been featured in all these publications. So it's absolutely crazy. And because he's got all these years of skills, he's extremely good at networking. He even started trading some of his skills with top creators to get them to engage with his stuff. So he definitely leveraged his superpowers to grow really quickly. And I'm biased, but I end up saving a lot of his posts, probably more than I save anybody else's posts.
What's his? I'm going to link this LinkedIn profile. Is it mainly LinkedIn he's active on? Twitter as well?
Yeah, he's only started posting on Twitter as well. He's been quite focused on LinkedIn. Just that's where founders mostly hang out.
And you already mentioned it, and he's already in Ali Abdal's video. What is his name? So people listening to this is just they don't have to go through the description. Yeah,
it's Eric Partaker, and it's spelled exactly how it sounds.
It's cool. When people get a peek into this course, I'm going to link that course. I should sign up for that. I feel like I can learn a ton. I'm going to
We'd love to have you, man.
join the next cohort. You can take my
next
word.
cohort's in October.
Okay.
We figured like nobody wants to do this. Nobody wants to join a month-long cohort-based thing where they need to be accountable during the summer.
100%. Let's talk about that. I mean, you already kind of started digging into one. I'm going to be focusing. You shared this post on LinkedIn. I'll share in the description. Like 12 ways to capture people's attention and make unignorable content. But I want to pick on the C's. There's 5, but I don't know how much we can cover today. But you already started digging into one of them. You mentioned credibility. I feel like that's such a powerful way to grab people's attention. Is like C of the year, or like I've looked at 100 like onboarding experience, or like looked at different ads and showing graphs. Why is that so like effective when people see like that credibility markers when in posts?
In a lot of ways, it can kind of feel like bragging, but it's funny that it just like, I think what's the stat? Like people scroll through 300 feet of content per day. And ultimately they want to know that the thing that they're going to learn is coming from somebody who actually knows something and has the credibility to do that. So for example, like Justin Welsh saying, I made $3 million last year with my one-person business. Would you rather learn something about one-person businesses from somebody who's made $3 million in a year, or would you rather learn it from somebody who just started? And so it's kind of it's kind of hard to do at first because you feel like you're sort of bragging. Like, you know, I have ones like I've worked with 100+ startups, or it's like I've grown this quickly, or I've done this, or so there's 3 fundamental ways I think you can kind of leverage credibility. One is, you know, like I've done this amazing thing, you know, like I made $3 million from a year as a solopreneur. There's kind of I guess, leveraging the credibility of somebody else. So for example, I have a post that did well, and I leveraged the success story of Eric. And I've kind of attached myself to that because I say that he was my student. So I get everyone who happens to know Eric will stop and look, especially since I have his face in the post. It kind of shows some amazing thing he's done. So you want to learn how he did that. And then kind of that credibility also somewhat gets transferred to me. And also part of like leveraging somebody else's credibility, say like you're just starting out, you're not CEO of the year. How do you do this? You say, like Eric does this a lot in his content. It's like, this is something that I learned at McKinsey. This is a study done by Harvard. This is how Marcus Aurelius or Steve Jobs. So people have heard of Harvard. They respect Harvard. They know McKinsey. They know Steve Jobs. Anyone who's a fan of them or recognizes them are more likely to stop and want to read. So, I guess the last one would be kind of around, I've done a ton of work. As you said, it's like, I've spent 15 hours putting this together. I've analyzed 1,000 posts. It's showing I've done all this work so you don't have to. And it leverages the labor illusion, saying like, if something took a lot of time, it must be valuable. So, yeah.
That makes sense.
You can see why this it could be hard to go through all 12 because each one kind of, you can go deeply into it. So, yeah,
I mean, I love this. I mean, it's giving, essentially, I see credibility as a way to let people know why they should listen to you.
Yeah. So why should I care?
Why should I care?
You're constantly, like when somebody's scrolling, you're constantly trying to ask them like, answer the question like, so what? Like, why should I read this? So it's just very much like just leaning into that, being like, look, I've done this thing, or this person's done this thing. Here's how they did it, or whatever. So
before I continue, I want to thank the sponsor for this episode, 42 Agency. Now, when you're in scale-up growth mode and you have to hit your KPIs, the pressure is on to deliver demos and signups, and it's a lot to handle. There's demand gen, email sequences, RevOps, and more. And that's where 42 Agency, founded by my good friend Camille Rexton, can help you. They're a strategic partner that's helped B2B SaaS companies like Profit Wall, Teamwork, Sprout Social, and HubDoc to build a predictable revenue engine. If you're looking for performance experts and creatives to solve your marketing growth problems today and help you build the foundations for the future, look no further. Visit 42agency.com to talk to a strategist right now to learn how you can build a high efficiency revenue engine. I love how you broke down, like, you don't have to brag, show your own credibility. You're talking about like showing other people's credibility. It could be your student, like you mentioned. It could also be a famous person, like this is how Marcus Aurelius did it. Another thing I've seen around credibility, I think Brendan Hufford does this a lot, which I had on an episode where he does like a graph, like, look at this SEO, like this spike. And that kind of like showcases the result of your client. That could be
he often goes like, I was able to scale their organic traffic from this to this in this time frame. It's very powerful. I find myself stopping at almost every single one of those that Brandon does, and it's often the posts. So like, we'll probably get into this, but I talk a lot about how as you're trying to build a personal brand, you're likely doing it probably because you want to make money, right? Or you want to be able to grow your business or something. So like deep down, that's mostly why you're trying to do it. So posting memes, posting platitudes, reposting other things that other people have said or done, ultimately doesn't make somebody respect you as a trusted source or to respect your authority or credibility or want to work with you or pay you money. It's like, yeah, sure, there's lots of Instagram accounts that, have great cat memes. Am I ever going to purchase something based on the recommendation of this? No. I also don't even care who runs it. I just like that it's funny. Whereas like Brendan, he's showing an example of how he grew somebody's blog. If I needed somebody to run the SEO for my business, he'd be one of the first people I thought of. Just because it's like he's clearly had results for other people. And I find that when it's like I posted that thing about Eric, I started getting lots of messages being like, how did you work with Eric? Can I work with you? Stuff like that. And those are the number one posts I find for to kind of get that inbound is just kind of highlighting other people's success.
What I'm hearing is that maybe sometimes early when you're building your personal brand or like your client, you don't really have a big client or result to show. Maybe start off like being a reporter where like you're sharing other people's results and then slowly merge into, once you have proof, sharing your own results. Is that like a suggestion that might make sense?
Totally. I think it's James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, has talked quite a bit about this too. It's like when he started writing about it, I've read his first posts, when I was 23, I'm now 34. So he was not an expert in habit formation or achieving goals or anything at the time. He was basically learning in public. He was just, I've just read this thing. I've been thinking whatever. And then over time, because he spent so much time thinking about it and writing about it, that he is now basically seen as one of the utmost experts in this topic, right? So it's like, even if you're 20 years old and you don't have a skill, it's just like, pick a topic that you're really obsessed and interested by, go learn it. And then you can just report back to the internet what you've learned about it. And often that's, you learning from other people. And in that you kind of leverage their credibility, and eventually you consume enough of that content, you write about it enough, you're going to have your own unique insights from that. So, yeah.
That makes a ton of sense. I think starting off with that, I think this ties to one of the other C's in terms of capturing people's attention is celebrate. Like you're building in public. It's great to share any kind of, I'm so happy for you, for them, us is what you shared. Can you talk a little bit about more about how to celebrate without, once again, sometimes it's oh, I did such a good job. Let me pat my back. Everybody pat my back, without sounding like that.
Yes. It's, celebrating wins is definitely a big one. It's every time I see somebody announce that they've gotten a new job, it's not a well-written post, but it pops off, right? or they've raised a bunch of money or whatever. I think, or they say it's their birthday, and then that kind of leads in, or I just achieved this revenue milestone. I think part of the reason it's like, one, they want to celebrate the win. There's also some underlying thing of kind of our fear of being outdone. So just seeing somebody else's success inherently triggers some sort of jealousy that, either motivates you or demotivates you. Hopefully it motivates them. Especially if, kind of, I've achieved this thing, here's how I did it, so that you can achieve it too. That's kind of more of a motivating message. But fundamentally too, it's like when you post something, people need some sort of prompt to help them decide even what to say or comment. When you say it's like, oh, it's my birthday today, it's like a very obvious response to go happy birthday, Ramley. And so, it's like, I just got a new job. They're just like, oh, great, congratulations. So it's like a very obvious kind of thing for them to be able to respond with. And just inherently how algorithms work is that things that get likes or comments will get seen by more people. So there's like a large mix of things, partly psychology of them just want to celebrate, them, at big number or something kind of catches their eye, some sort of jealousy or fear of being outdone might be in there as well. And then also just having an easy prompt. But in terms of it not feeling too braggy, it's I think it comes down mostly to how you say it, and not just kind of purely draw the attention of oh, I've made $3 million this year, how that's fucking sick, right? No, it's or it's here's my photo of my Lambo that I just bought, and kind of rubbing it in people's face. Instead, you just kind of say it, and it's there, you can even be a little humble, and it's this kind of blows my mind or something, or and just kind of then tell people how you achieved it, so they kind of feel like they've gotten something out of it too.
It also feels like you mentioned a lot about how you say it, but also what is the next step? Some of the stuff that you shared in that, with Justin Welsh saying, "Oh, look, I've made $3 million. Now here's how I did it." It's not just cool, let's celebrate. Even Jay Klaus, you share oh, it's my birthday. Here's 30 things I wish I knew in my 20s. And that kind of feeds that loop where happy birthday and also thanks for sharing what you learned.
Yeah. It would feel very different if Justin Welsh, I made $3 million last year. Here's this sick house that I just bought. You'd be like, cool, Justin. Good for you. I'm glad. So yeah, it's, the kind of the next step, or, why, again, the so what, and basically somebody's answering the question of so what, it always ties back to why should they care that you just made $3 million? Why should they care that it's your birthday? It's an opportunity for you to have reflected on your life. And these are the things that you've learned. So
I want to move on to the next one around curiosity. I love how you broke this down in that post. How when you think about curiosity, you can say something shocking like, I used to sell drugs. The example you share, promise value could be how to make money online in 3 days, even if it's possible, or strong words this is how you steal other people's audience. The word steal is that sounds scammy. Can you talk a little bit about this? Curiosity, the 3 things? Yeah, what is that all about, and how can people use it?
Yeah, I like to tie it to kind of basically prompting something in their head, you want them to go, then what happened? Or what then? So I particularly love it when people do this with storytelling. They, for example, Andrew Wilkinson does this one where he talked about how he lost $10 million, and he really kind of dives into being that I could have retired on a $250,000 a year salary for the rest of my life if I hadn't blown $10 million. And he just really kind of twists the knife and was like, how did he lose $10 million? Like, that's insane. I've never had $10 million and this guy's lost it. So kind of like talking about the outcome of a story and like, making them interested in what happens. Or I quite liked what, Casey Neistat. He's a YouTuber. He had this great video. Basically, it's called "Do What You Can't," and it was kind of this rallying cry for YouTubers to basically talk about this huge cultural shift of these weirdos posting videos on the internet and becoming bigger than like some broadcasting networks.
Right.
And he starts the whole video of just like a guy dangling from a ladder from a helicopter. And, you know, it does that for 10 seconds and you're just like, what's going on here? Like, what? Why is someone hanging from a helicopter in the middle of nowhere? So you just like keep watching, and then he like builds with interesting music and cuts, and, you know, you end up watching the whole video without even really ever questioning whether you should stop. So, and it's like this concept that's constantly, that's talked about, especially in videos or movies, is something called the curiosity gap. So you like tease at something, you give, and then you kind of delay the satisfaction. So one of my friends made this great video. It's called is a YouTube short, the most psychopathic movie role of all time. Yeah. I mean, it's so like, even that name is great. You're like, ooh,
yeah, that's good.
What's that? And he had, you know, it starts with like the scene from Clockwork Orange where his eyes are being taped open. So it's like strong imagery of that. And it kind of also hints like, oh, is it maybe this movie, Clockwork Orange? And then, you know, he delays the satisfaction by then talking about the credibility of some researcher who had dived in and had done this study, blah, blah, blah. And then it starts showing movie covers to show all the different movies that they had looked at. And it's not until like, I don't know, 30 seconds in that it finally tells you what it is. And it's and like, I imagine people listening to this are also just wondering like, which movie was it? It was No Country for Old Men. But it's like, if he had just started the short saying the most psychopathic movie role of all time based, this study was No Country for Old Men, you'd just be like, cool, I just got the value. I don't care to listen to the 1 minute or 2 minute explanation of this. I'm just going to go to the next video. So it's like teasing some sort of interesting value and like then delaying it and like getting that suspense, building it, kind of contextualizing further why they should care. And then only then kind of satisfying that curiosity. And kind of like the best movies and videos actually have this. They tried to have, as one curiosity is about to be satisfied, they kind of like bring in another one. So, like I read this, one of my favorite authors, Haruki Murakami, often switches between two characters every chapter, and he ends each chapter with some sort of interesting cliffhanger. So, but you can't resolve that cliffhanger until you've finished an entire other chapter. But that next chapter is resolving the cliffhanger from a chapter ago. So you're just in this, it's like this really thick book, but you just end up like plowing through it because you're just constantly like craving the finality, and you have to just plow through the next chapter to figure out what that is. And it's just never ending cycle of him just constantly teasing your curiosity and your need to just know, because when you finally find out, you actually get a big surge of dopamine for your curiosity to have been satisfied.
I love this curiosity gap. Never thought about it. You mentioned Casey Neistat. I feel like YouTubers are like they can't. I feel like YouTubers really have to figure this out because the YouTube algorithm kind of rewards people because within the first 5 seconds you have to grab people's attention. An example of this is Mr. Beast. One of his now his most watched video is that $1 billion boat. Or a $1 boat versus $1 billion boat. And it's like this in the thumbnail, it's him. There's like a big yacht and it's like covered in gold, but it's like not covered in gold in real life, but you're like, is it covered in gold? So like, now, you want to see it. You want to see what's inside. What does $1 billion boat yacht look like?
And I imagine he starts with the $1 boat.
He does. Yeah.
There's, he's got another one that's great where he compares,
the hotel.
different hotels. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that one too.
The
Yeah.
$1, it's like, of course you care most about the $1 million hotel.
Yeah, of course.
sure.
Yeah, right.
He's
But he
like,
builds
I
up to
don't
that.
care. He builds up to that, and you finally get there. And yeah, so yeah, Mr. Beast it's like when I watch it, I know I'm not the target audience, but when I start a video, I finish it. Like,
Yeah,
it's
you
just,
can't stop. It's so good.
and then I'll
Right?
probably watch another one, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not 16 years old, but I'm still watching these. Yeah, it's I think you talk to some of the biggest YouTubers like Mr. Beast or Ali Abdaal, and their whole advice is like, don't care about an algorithm. The algorithm is somebody intrigued enough to click on your video?
Are they
Do
curious
they
enough?
watch
Right.
the entire video? And do they like it so much that they then watch your next video? And that's like all you should care about. Like, you don't need to game it. It's just like, so like one of my friends likes to say, replace the word algorithm with the word people in your vocabulary. And I think that's like very true with YouTube. I think it's basically one of the hardest. I was even talking with somebody. It's like, I very rarely subscribe to a channel on YouTube. Like, I subscribe to way fewer channels on YouTube than I am followers of people on LinkedIn or Twitter. So it's like Ali says, like 80% of the people who view his videos are not subscribers. And I'm sure a lot of them have seen a lot of his videos too. And, I didn't even, I've seen lots of his videos and I didn't subscribe until he specifically called that out.
And part of that is they really care about, you talked about this curiosity link with your author, the author that you mentioned. That's something also. There's also something a lot of YouTubers do because they know their retention plays such a big part of the success of their video. And you looping those curiosity. I was talking about the Mr. Beast. You go to $1 and then like $100 boat. Like, I'm curious now. Now you're curious as to what the $1,000 boat looks like, or hotel.
He is really a master of just like always kind of keeping you wanting to watch even the next minute, and also just it's like, okay, where is this going to go from here? Yeah, as you said, I've seen the $100. Let's see the $1,000. I mostly care about the $1 billion one, but it's also interesting to watch this progression.
That makes a ton of sense. That's curiosity. We've talked about credibility, celebration, curiosity. I want to tie the last two C's together because they both start with counter narrative, and then counterintuitive. What is that all about? And it seems like, if I just heard it, it would be like, almost like contrarian point of view, or like what Wes Cow says as spiky point of view. Is that what that's about?
Whenever I talk about counter narrative, I always mention Wes Cow's spiky point of views. One of my favorite examples of counter narrative is that it's probably because I'm very biased, comes from my longtime friend and co-founder, Julian Shapiro. He had this post that was, people don't have short attention spans, which is, it's hard to go a week without somebody saying that like social media and everything has ruined our attention spans. So it's like everyone believes that, right? But so he says that right up front, which makes you go like, this is not what I've normally thought. Like, what is this guy's point? And then he says like, we'll binge watch 10 hours of Netflix. We'll listen to a 3-hour podcast episode on Lex Friedman or Joe Rogan. It's not that we have short attention spans. We have a short consideration span. So as we said, it's like, if you don't hook somebody in the first 3 seconds of your video, they're just going to go to the next one because there's infinite content. So it's a commonly held belief that you don't believe, and you word it strongly, like Julian could have said something like, lots of people say that we have shortening attention spans. I don't agree with this. That's not that, it doesn't hit you as hard as like, people don't have short attention span. Just like Wes Cow, she has things where she says, if you go to her Twitter and you rank things by the most engagement, almost all of them are, most X suck at Y. So for example, most companies suck at onboarding their employees. And then she gives them a framework on how to, like, somebody can onboard themselves. And that kind of, it's strong language that makes you stop and think. And if she had said, most companies have suboptimal onboarding practices, leaving the employee to kind of do it themselves. Here's a framework for how to do it. It's just like, it just doesn't hit as hard. Even though it's saying essentially the same thing. So in combination with having, like, strong language in view, challenging some commonly held belief will make them stop and think. Like, one of the posts that we used to kind of get people on the wait list for Unignorable was Caitlin Burgoyne. She's got over 100,000 Twitter followers. She said, fuck building an audience, which somebody, you don't expect somebody that spends so much time posting on Twitter and has 100,000 followers to basically discard the thing that you think that she cares about most. And her whole point of that was that, you don't, kind of as I said, you don't just build an audience of people who like your cat memes. You instead are building a group of people, kind of like your 1,000 true fans that love you and would kind of like work with you and pay you for anything. So it's not about just getting attention and building an audience. It's about having a network of people that care about you. And like Justin Welsh, again, he does it again, where he says, like, he challenges the concept of being rich. And you don't expect somebody who's got $3 million a year business and keeps like growing it to say that it's just like, what? You don't need money. Just challenging. It's like kind of a hard thing to do, because it's like you're really looking for either a commonly held belief that's wrong, or you're looking for a what I like to call a popular, unpopular opinion. So it might feel contrarian, but there's actually like a large group of people who believe this secretly, or they haven't had it articulated properly by somebody else before. And then, when somebody says, here's an unpopular opinion, and then they say like, work-life balance is dumb or something. There's a large group of people who love to work really hard that think like work-life balance is dumb. And then they love that somebody's challenged it. And, people on both sides, people who love work-life balance or hate that you're now challenging this like strongly held belief. And then people who actually secretly hate the concept of work-life balance will also stop and read it, because they just want somebody to validate, or basically the confirmation bias, validate the thing that they already believe is true.
That's so good. I mean, you mentioned the formula almost like not X, which is commonly held belief, but Y. Another example that you gave on that post, I really love from Naval. It's like, it's not 10,000 hours. It's 10,000 iterations, where we have this 10,000 rule that we believe that we've heard from Malcolm Gladwell in one of his books. Like, that's how you become an expert, 10,000 hours. But you can spend 10,000 hours on something really poorly and only did it one iteration, versus like 10,000 iterations about like learning and building and failing and doing it over and over again. I think that's another great example that you shared there. Yeah.
Shane Parrish has a great line about that. It's like, kind of as you alluded to, it's not 10,000 hours. It has to be 10,000 hours of you like constantly trying to improve and doing new things. So it's not the same 10,000 hours. It's not just you like screwing the head on the doll. It's you trying to figure out like, oh, how could the head get on this doll better? And then iterating and trying to get to it, then you've eventually got a machine that puts the head on the doll perfectly. And you're not just sitting there screwing the head on the doll 10,000 times. Yeah. And Naval is quite good at finding these. I mean, you could probably quite systematically do this. Just like go through popular books or famous people who are known for saying certain things, and then just like, if you believe the opposite, then just strongly say the opposite. One of my other friends has this, like, you can tweet your way into any room. So it's just like your take just has to be interesting enough. It's like, if you are saying something that most people are not saying, then people will automatically think you're an interesting more interesting person and then want to talk to you and learn more about that.
You just said something there, and I feel like it's a great exercise. I just want to make sure people heard it. That, commonly held advice from your industry, put it like, let's say on like, it could be a spreadsheet or a table, like here, commonly held beliefs, and then find ones that are, like you either strongly believe against, or like there's a different perspective that you could take. And there is, now you have some ideas that you can build upon to take this counter narrative or counterintuitive approach there.
Yeah. I think everyone in them has some sort of, they think their industry is doing something
wrong,
or their job title fundamentally is doing things wrong. Like I'm pretty sure I've seen you post things where you're saying like, you're challenging how marketers or growth marketers normally perceive or work on something. So, one of the great benefits of writing online is that it's a form of introspection to even try to see like what you actually deeply believe, and then to put ideas out there and have people, hopefully challenge them so that you then, learn things. Like one thing I liked with Sahil Bloom, talking to him, he said that he originally started doing it just as an exercise for him to learn. It gave him kind of an excuse to really dive into a subject he wanted to learn. And writing it forces you to think about it deeply. Like I remember, as an engineer, I was very interested by like the inner workings of how, say, like the blockchain or Bitcoin even worked technically. And I always thought I understood how it worked. And then I started to write it down. Then I was just like, actually, fundamentally, I really don't understand how this works. And then I have to keep researching until I'm like, okay, I actually know how this works. So like the process of writing really helps you learn yourself, and then also learn about you and what you actually believe about the world. And then, Sahil would just post it. And if no one cared about that post, whatever, I've gained value from just having learned a thing and have better thought through something that I cared about.
That's so good. I think I really love that. We just talked about this 5 C's, now credibility, celebration, curiosity, counter narrative, intuitive. Any, before we move on to like career power-ups, do you have any like final advice to people who are like trying to build up their personal brand? And it could be anything that you've seen help you and your students.
Yeah. So I would say I have a few answers to this. One is that fundamentally most people fail because they never actually start. It's this disease of tomorrow. You're constantly waiting for a better time to do it. And part of that is, you're just worried. Like I'm at fault of this myself. Like I've been wanting to get into video, and I've been intending to record video for YouTube for about 6 months, and I still haven't done it just because it's a new format, and I'm scared that it's going to be a bad video and put it online. But fundamentally, it's like, you have to keep reminding yourself that no one really cares, and they're not even going to remember your bad. It's like Mr. Beast started posting when he's 13 years old.
Yeah. I saw that.
It took him, what is it, like 3 years before he hit 1,000 subscribers, but he continued to post. You see anybody like going back and insulting him for his first year of video? No, nobody cares. They just look at his highlight reel now. So that's one, just like getting over that fear and just start posting. And yes, it's going to suck. Just give yourself the opportunity to do that. I love how Ali Abdaal breaks it down all into 3 steps. It's get going, get good, get smart. And the first bit, just start posting anything. It's just like something. Right. Like Elena Verna has this great framework where she says, like, if you found yourself explaining something 3 times, just write it down. Write it down and post it. Somebody's asked you a question, like, just write it down. Or it's like, if you find yourself thinking about it, just write it down, post it. Doesn't matter if it's the same topic. Doesn't matter if it's really good. Just get in the habit of posting it. And then once you've proven that you can do something at least a little bit consistently, then you can worry about like getting better at writing, picking a specific topic, things like that. And then beyond that, it's just like, don't be people will only want to follow you and be interested if they care about you specifically. So, in part of that, you need to have your own unique perspective and opinions. Part of that is kind of, doing the counter narrative. Don't be afraid of people not agreeing with you, because ultimately if somebody doesn't agree with you, they're never going to agree with, they're not going to become a customer. They're not going to become a friend. They're not going to be a member of your community. It's better. It's like, just if they don't agree, whatever, they can just not, but the people who do agree with you, they'll like you more for it. So inject your own unique opinion and stories. Like some of the posts that I do that get the most amount of people DMing me, which I see as being a very strong signal as it being a very good post, is that people just feel compelled to reach out to me. It's because I've shared some sort of like vulnerable part of my story and things I've overcome or things that have made me the person I am today. Another sort of framework around that I got from Ali Abdaal was the finding your unfair advantage. So, for example, he was, when he started on YouTube, he was a medical student at Cambridge. So what was his unfair advantage? Helping people get into medical school at Cambridge. Somebody who's 30 years old and is a marketer has no right to tell somebody how to get into med school. Just like Eric Partaker, he was voted CEO of the year. So his unique unfair advantage is that he can tell people how to be a great CEO and leader. So what is it specific to you and your story and the experiences that you've had that makes you uniquely qualified or interesting for a specific thing? And then you can start with that and just do that.
That makes sense. That's just so good stuff, especially that, what was that? Get going was the second one, and then get smart.
Get going, get good, get smart. Get going smart is just start doing, get good, get right, make better content. And then get smart is learning to systematize it. Maybe you bring in, in the concept of YouTube, start outsourcing the video editing and things like that. That way you can produce good content faster and more efficient. Yeah.
Well, I want to shift gears and talk about career Powerups. Now, you have had an interesting career journey. You started as a mechanical engineer turned programmer who fell into marketing, as you said it, specifically your words, when you co-founded Bell Curve that went through Y Combinator. I'm curious, what's a Powerup that's helped you accelerate your career?
I've never had a full-time job. So I'm just gonna start there. Like, I did mechanical engineering and I had like co-op jobs, and fundamentally I had co-op jobs that were with like semi-governmental positions. So one was a federal research thing on fuel cells, and the other was working at like the Occupational Health and Safety Board of British Columbia. So I was bored out of my mind, and I was sitting at a desk, and there was nothing to do because it's like compounding of, it's a government job, so there's often very little to do. And then the other is that you're a co-op student, so you also don't have a lot of responsibility. So that ground out any sort of desire for working in an office. So I kind of took ownership of learning the skills that I needed to. So I taught myself programming, and then I started taking freelance contracts. And then I completely self-taught for marketing because I fell into, and I started a marketing agency with a friend of mine was a VP of marketing at Webflow. So I was just forced myself into an uncomfortable position where then I just had to learn it. Like, I started taking freelance contracts to make people's websites when I had never actually really made a website for somebody before. And it's like, I'm just going to have to figure this thing out to do it. And kind of the benefit of just taking that ownership over your thing is like, nobody's going to take it on to make sure that you're developing and growing for your career any more than you. It's like you fundamentally need to be the person to take ownership of that. And you can climb the corporate ladder, but I've always just kind of believed that you should try to take the helicopter or the elevator. Like, if I want to be somebody who works in the executive team of one of these large companies, like, I think I'm going to get there a lot faster if I go out, build my own business, and prove that I have initiative and leadership and learn all these skills, they're way more likely to want to hire me to be on their executive team rather than if I just like slowly started in the mailroom and worked my way up. And I think the ultimate tool these days is just start posting on social media. It's just like, find a thing that you want to learn, and then learn in public, and then people will love and respect you for that thing. And then, you can probably command a salary that's way higher than if you had just worked at some sort of job, just because there's really an allure to just people who have been able to crack and capture people's attention and gain their respect from lots of people. So
You mentioned something there that's quite interesting around like you start posting online. I think the other benefit you talked earlier about like it helping you grow a business, but as well, if you're working as an employee somewhere, Sarah Stockdale, who had it on the show, the CEO of Grow Class, said this could be like a great like backup or you should call it golden parachute, because it's much easier for somebody to, hire you if you have like that presence online already, because they know that you've been sharing your thoughts there, rather than somebody who hasn't, has been a little bit less quiet. There's a little bit of social proof almost there, where if you are posting up something online, sometimes if it's like skills for skill, it's the same. Maybe I would choose somebody who has a little bit more presence online, especially if they're in marketing, rather than somebody who's not.
Yeah, you're also probably going to have maybe you've seen them before and you already have some sort of baseline affinity for them.
Right.
Or, you see other people talking nicely about them online. It's, it's an excellent tool to grow your business. But, as an employee, it's like either going to allow you to break off kind of, as you said, golden parachute, like you can then start taking freelance contracts, or you can get a better job. And like, I've always kind of found the concept of unemployment to be a little funny, because it's like, fundamentally, you only need there's 8 billion people in the world, and you only need to convince one person that you're worth employing. And, posting online, it's like, if you've got 50,000 followers, I imagine there's one of them that would be willing to hire you for the thing that you talk about. So, and I think it's easily one of the best things that somebody could do either for their business or their career. And it's, it's kind of funny. We went through a hilarious cycle where our business got bootstrapped kind of off my co-founder's personal brand. And then we spent years and years trying to detach the company from the brand, trying to like draw attention to bell curve and demand curve and not Julian.
Right.
And then we've just seen this trend. It's like, oh wait, people don't connect or identify with brands nearly as much as they connect and identify with people. And when I had that sort of light bulb moment, I was just like, wait, I need to start investing in this. I need to become kind of the face of the business and try to encourage kind of other people on the team to start doing that, to show the people behind it. And, it's good for the business, but it's also like, maybe one day I stop doing demand curve and bell curve and I want to start something else or do something else. And am I going to be more likely to be successful at that thing now that I have the ability to channel people's attention toward it, or even just network my way into either investment for it or having a great co-founder for it or whatever. It's, it's the concept of increasing your luck surface area. It's like you don't know what knowing more people or having more people like you is going to achieve. So, and this is, I think, the number one way that exists in the world to do that.
If you enjoyed this episode, you'd love the Marketing Powerups newsletter. I share the actionable takeaways and break down the frameworks of world-class marketers. You can go to marketingpowerups.com to subscribe, and you'll instantly unlock the 3 best frameworks that top marketers use to hit their KPIs consistently and wow their colleagues. I want to say thank you to you for listening, and please like and follow Marketing Powerups on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. If you're feeling extra generous, kindly leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and leave a comment on YouTube. It goes a long way in others finding out about Marketing Powerups. Thanks to Mary Solden for creating the artwork and design, and thank you to Faisal Kaigo for editing the intro video. And of course, thank you for listening. That's all for now. Have a powered up day.
Marketing Powerups. Until the next episode,